Hello, everyone. Welcome to Earnings Call. My name is Jeffrey Beamer, and I am the Senior Investment Strategist over at ewotrader.com. And if you are not familiar with what we do here, we talk about how to make money from earnings each week. We talk about stocks that are going to move very little through earnings and stocks that are going to move a lot through earnings. And we specifically target different option strategies to profit from either situation. So stick around. We have here the week of May 12th. We have a considerable number of stocks that are, well, less stocks than we had last week, about 50% less this week than last week. So we're on the back end of earnings season, but we have some big names coming up. All right. So you'll want to stick around for those names and see what opportunities we have in store for you this week in a new trade alert that we'll show here towards the end of the program. So stick around. Let's get going. All right. Usually we talk about a lot of stocks here. So the selected stocks that we talk about are going to be featured in a chapter section at the bottom of the video. You can skip to maybe a particular stock that you want to learn more about. But here you see my target list for this week. These are stocks that are broken up into two parts. On the left-hand side, we have what we call breakout stocks. These are stocks that are going to move double digits, or at least the market believes they are going to move double digits. And on the right-hand side, we have our quiet stocks. These are the stocks that are going to move single digits. Okay, so definitely less than 10%, but usually just low single digits, low to mid single digits. That's what we focus on here. So let's get right into it. And we're going to talk about quiet stocks first. All right. And then let me give you an example. All right. Now, this company had earnings last week. This is Pfizer. And as you can see here, over the last 5 earnings announcements, that this stock just doesn't move very much. Okay. It's been trading in a small little range for a long time. And in each earnings announcement, it moves less than 4%. In fact, last week, it moved about 3.8%. Okay, which was just the forecasted amount of movement that the option market makers thought that the stock would move. Okay, and so that's what we go by. All right, so let's take a look at our list here for this week, and you're going to see some big names as we get into the latter part of the week. But let's go through what I'm focused on for this week. So we're going to begin with the what was once known as 21st Century Fox. Okay, now just called Fox, and FOXA is the symbol, and they are going to have an earnings announcement today. Okay, today, May 12th. Sorry, that should be May 12th, not March 12th. So that would be May 12th after market close. And before market open, they declared this morning, and that's why I wanted to show this. You can see the stock gapped up and sold off, and look where it's trading. It's only up 3.98%. So the target move was less than 7, and at a high, maybe it was up 4.5%, and then it sold off mid-morning and was only up 3.98%. So Fox, just like the market makers are estimating, less than 5%. So with stocks like this, what we like to do is sell premium, because going into the announcement, implied volatility on the options is really high, and we sell options to bring in that premium. And then once the earnings announcement is made, that implied volatility drops, and that's where we make our profit, is on a small move in the stock and then that collapse in implied volatility. All right. So then Honda Motor, HMC, they will declare on Tuesday, the 13th, so tomorrow before market open, so first thing in the morning, and the estimated move here is less than 5%. Now, what's interesting is today's a big day for the broader market. Okay, the markets are up over 3% across the board on possible tariff agreement with China. So that's causing some of these stocks to really react. And then notably, some stocks that I thought might be moving are not. All right. So Honda, for example, thought that might have a bigger impact on Honda today, but they were only up about 1.5%. So through their earnings announcement tomorrow, we could probably see again, another muted move. If it's not moving today, it's probably going to not move through its earnings announcement unless something extraordinary happens. All right. So moving on, we have Cisco. So one of our first big names here. They will declare on Wednesday. Boy, me and my fat fingers. Horrible as a trader to have fat fingers. All right. So May 12th, after market close. Let's see here. That is totally need to update today. So Wednesday will be the 14th. And let's be professional about this and get the right dates in there. So that will be Wednesday, May 14th, after market close. And the estimated move here for Cisco is less than 4%. All right. So notably with Cisco, the earnings announcements, this stock at one time was definitely a high flyer, but now it's such a mature company that it just really doesn't move. Speaking of mature companies, our next candidate here is John Deere. Okay, Deere is up only 1.3%. Again, a stock that could have been pretty heavily impacted by tariff. Um, uh, around the world, and just not much of a reaction today, only up 1.3% and off its highs. They will declare Thursday, the 15th, before market open, and the estimated move here is less than 7%, which is pretty notable because this is a $500 stock. All right, $500 stock, and really it's only going to move about 7%, which is a decent move for a $500 stock. But again, not a lot of opportunity if you were looking for a big move like double digits for John Deere. Not happening. And to me, one of the real surprises here was Walmart and their lack of reaction today. Okay, you just thought that maybe their operations would be affected by imports and any agreement, and that, boy, they barely budged today. But that's not what we're focused on. We're looking at their earnings announcement on Thursday, the 15th, before market open. And the estimated move here is less than 8% as well. Now, this stock is just below $100. Okay. This is, as you can see, it's a 96 trading at $96 and some change, and another good candidate. So John Deere is a good candidate. Walmart's a good candidate to do something like an iron condor or a condor, maybe a butterfly, but I like the bigger break evens that we can get with, especially an iron condor, where we're selling premium and we can profit from that lack of movement in these stocks. All right, so last stock here is Applied Material. Now, Applied Material, look at this. It is up 8.5% today. This was not the earnings announcement. Applied Materials doesn't declare until Thursday, the 15th of May, after market close, and we're looking at a move of less than 7%. So take a look at that. The move on tariff related news is anticipated to be is bigger than the anticipated move through earnings. Okay, so we might get a double digit move in earnings depending on the outlook for Applied Materials. So I'd be very careful with this, because to me that's a little foreshadowing of what might be to come through the earnings announcement. Is like where Walmart, it just isn't moving. Well, we might not get much movement through the earnings announcement. We will see. But Applied Material, big movement today, up 8.5%. That could be followed through with some additional movement. It could be double digits through earnings, but we'll see. But right now, the market is forecasting a move of less than 7%. All right. So that's our list of quiet stocks for today. Again, we're getting on the backside of earnings, but that's not the only the good news about that is we do have fewer stocks each week declaring, so we can focus on just the top candidates from each, and we're not overflowing with candidates, because it's hard to trade when you got 10 opportunities a day. Now we're going to probably have 2 or 3 candidates per day that meet our list, as you can see. All right, we have just the right amount, and this will continue all through the end of the earnings cycle until we start the next earnings cycle. We have earnings all the time, each and every week. All right, so with that, let's take a look at are breakout stocks. Now, if you're finding this information helpful, please like and subscribe. That helps us reach more traders like you who can profit from these earnings. Okay. But this list that we're going to look at, these potential breakout candidates are the ones that really capture people's attention. All right. And so this is an example. Akamai had earnings last week, and that's that circle there on the right-hand side. The latest circle that you can see, they declared, and the stock dropped 10%. Okay, which was about their estimated move. Actually, was right around 10%. But this is a notorious double-digit mover, as you can see through the past 5 earnings cycles. Okay, this stock just really does move. And last week, didn't quite move as much as it usually does, but still, what was the forecast? The forecast was actually for 10%, and the stock did drop 10% on that earnings announcement. That's an example of a breakout stock. So for these, we use strategies such as straddles or strangles going into the earnings announcement. Okay, yes, we are buying high implied volatility, but we are anticipating a big move in these names. And so that is why we use those strategies. So who's first on our list for this week? Well, it's going to be a company called AST Mobile, or Space Mobile, sorry, AST Space Mobile. And the estimated move here is going to be greater than 20% on this particular stock. They declare today after market close, and the estimated move here is greater than 20%. And this stock is a historical mover around earnings. Okay, it will move pretty big each and every earnings cycle. So at a $26 stock, this is a perfect candidate for even smaller accounts, and expect a possibly greater than 20% move. That's what the market is pricing in for AST Space Mobile, which the symbol there is ASTS, and up 3.3% today, but could be followed through with a big movement today after market close. Now, the next stock here, Exelixis, okay, Exelixis, I believe is the correct pronunciation. They are going to have earnings on Tuesday, before or after market close there. Tuesday, the 13th of May, after market close. And the estimated move here is 12%. All right, 12% or more through their earnings announcement. All right, so double digit move. And this is a $37 stock. So another should be inexpensive candidate. Your straddles or your strangles will cost probably anywhere with a 12% estimated move. You can see the cost ranging from 10% of the stock price, so $3.70, up to about $5, okay, for a straddle or strangle when a stock is estimated to move double digits. And this one is at greater than 12%. Okay. Now, another stock that I thought was going to get a potential move here was C Limited. Okay, SE. Now, this, believe it or not, this has nothing to do with this company has nothing to do with the ocean. It has everything to do with the Internet of Things. Okay, and so they are invest in the World Wide Web, and they will declare on Tuesday, May 13th, before market open. The expected move here is greater than 10%. Now, this thing that usually moves right at 10%. So it's hard to kind of get a trade-off. You need to be sure that with this, that if you go back and look at the historic movement of the stock, you want to definitely get your straddle or strangle price less than 10% on this, which would be less than a dollar, or $1,400, right? For the straddle or strangle. You would want to get it below $1,000, so less than 10% of the stock price for this. All right. So a couple more candidates here. A really interesting one here with Next Tracker. The stock is actually up over 8% today, but that's not earnings related. They have earnings on Wednesday, May 14th, after market close, and the estimated move here is greater than 20%. Okay. And I can see right off the bat, I can recognize one earnings announcement right here. Okay. Boom. Right here on the 28th of January, and that gap up on this particular stock. And you usually with these, you can see here's another earnings announcement. Okay, don't even need the dates on the chart to be able to see when the earnings announcements happen. Okay, and those aren't arbitrary. I know that those are the earnings dates. So here we have another earnings date coming up, and this is a $50 stock. So anything around that $5 range would be definitely appropriate for Next Tracker, since they're expecting greater than a 20% move for the stock. So big potential mover. Now Kava, they will have earnings here later this week on Thursday, May 15th. Their other earnings announcement, I kept that tag in there just to see, so you could see the precipitous drop that this stock had recently. Okay, and then going in and coming out of earnings, it was very interesting. Now we have a kind of a consolidation pattern, which I actually prefer when we come into earnings. I like the stock kind of doing that consolidation pattern to where it's constricting and stock price, and then it just burst out. All right, so they are looking at a potential 12% move or greater on Thursday after market close for Kava. All right, so again, you want your straddle or strangle. This is the $97 stock, so you want it under $9, or if you can get it, maybe $8 or $7. And that really would give you an edge in the trade if you can get that price. All right, and finally, we're going to wrap up today. And again, a short week with Doximity. Doximity is going to have earnings later this week, and that will be Thursday, May 15th, after market close. And take a look at this. Doximity has an estimated move pricing in right now at 22%, actually greater than 22%. And you can see here, oh, look at that. And there's the past earnings announcement there, and that big gap up. Okay. And prior to that, oh, look at that. Another earnings announcement right back there. Okay. And that big gap up. Okay. So this stock really does move around those earnings event. And this thing has been melting higher. So with this upcoming earnings announcement and the way the market makers are pricing this right now, we could definitely see a big double-digit move for Doximity later this week. All right. So that is our list for this week. We can throw the sheet back up, and you can see this in its entirety. Really the keynotes here are Walmart, Cisco, John Deere, Applied Material, okay, maybe even Honda are really the headline grabbers for big multi-billion-dollar companies. But as far as the movers go, ASTS, Doximity, DOCS, and Exelexis really are the leaders there for double-digit moves going into this week. And that's, again, not my opinion. That's what the market makers are pricing in. So that's what we look for each and every week. All right. Now, each and every week, I do like to do a couple of trades for you. And lately, we've been noticing a trend up until now. Now, things could be different from today, because today's news was pretty significant, where a lot of these potentially volatile stocks that move double digits through their earnings announcements have not. And I believe part of that concern was in what would the impact of tariffs be. Well, now that we have an agreement with England, and then a principal agreement with China, some of our biggest trading partners, that, man, now the dominoes could really start falling with many other countries. This might be now in the rearview mirror. So these double-digit movers could start double-digit moving once again. All right. So what did we have for you last time? Well, we had Dutch Brothers last week, and I liked it because this is a historic mover. You can see the last earnings announcement there back in February. This stock gapped up very nicely, and we had a nice winner back in February. And this was consolidating going into the earnings announcement. So how did it do through the earnings announcement? Well, we did get a little bit of movement, but again, like I said, we didn't get as much as we were hoping for here on the trade, and we didn't get really any movement until today, when finally the stock has popped up over, trading almost 7% on the day. And this has then taken what was a losing trade and now is made it a less of a loser. And you can see with 4 days left in the trading week, with a little follow through to the upside, this trade could go profitable really quick. We're only down 20% in the trade. $142 is what the current situation is. And within a day, really, if we got this same follow through tomorrow of another 4 to 6%, this trade would be profitable and we would take it off. So if you are in this trade, keep that in mind, that you do need to watch this and be note and take note that if you see this stock moving up over the next couple of days, maybe 3% tomorrow, maybe 4% the next day, or whatever it does, okay, take this off because we got a nice profit in the trade. All right. So right now, not doing so good, but not, hope we haven't given up. All right. That's why we give it a little extra time to move after that earnings announcement. And that is a little unusual for Dutch Brothers, as I mentioned. And you can go back to the charts and just see how much that stock really does move each and every earnings cycle. So what do I have for you this week? Well, I do have a new trade alert, and we are looking for another breakout candidate here. All right. So our trade for this week is going to be on Next Tracker. Okay. Next Tracker is, again, a pretty big mover. And we talked about it there for a second, but the estimated move there is greater than 20% for Next Tracker. And at $50 a share, you can see that our debit for this is just over that 10%. In fact, it's coming in right around that 13 to 14% range for Next Tracker. Okay. So if the estimated move is greater than 20% and we're getting pricing in that around that 13 or 14%, or 13 or to 14% range, that is giving us an edge off of what the market makers are looking at as the estimated move for the stock. And implied volatility on this is really high. So we would anticipate a continued movement, even though the stock is up over 8% today, about 7% when this image was taken, that we are expecting another double-digit move for Next Tracker going into earnings that happen after market close this Wednesday. All right, so plenty of time to get your order in. If this is the type of trade that you like to do, again, this is a straddle. Okay, if I mentioned strangle earlier, I was incorrect. This is a straddle, so same strike price, buying a call, buying a put, same strike price, same expiration date. Very simple, no margin required. Just buy call, buy put, and away you go. All right. So again, the debit here was just over $500. It definitely wasn't $6, and I can see that with the little black line there that makes the V. Okay, or right at the stock price there, it's going to be a little over $500 for the debit here, and we will see next week how we did in the trade. All right, so be sure and come back each week and see these trade alerts. We've been on a great run up until the past 2 weeks, and then we stumbled a little bit, but that's part of trading. All right, because we were on a long winning streak here on earnings call and had a bunch of winners in a row for weeks and weeks and weeks. We were just winning each and every week. So we're going to get back on that track, and let's start with Next Tracker, and we will go over that trade next week. So really good week this week coming up. Everyone have a great trading week, and I will see you again next Monday. Take care.